Good afternoon, everybody from the UK. Good morning and maybe good evening, depending on where you are all from. Welcome to this Blue Economy webinar hosted by the Blue Economy Cluster Builder, looking at opportunities for collaboration between Brazil and Scotland. Quite an interesting pair of countries looking to collaborate in the blue economy. My name is Nick Lambert. My background is marine and maritime, and I've for the last 10 years been working in the blue economy and helping people to understand the opportunities that lie within the concept. There's a great danger that people and perhaps governments and other agencies confuse a rebadging of their sectors, their marine and maritime sectors. So let's say shipping and fishing, tourism and ports and harbors and so on, and think that because they've got those, they've got a blue economy. They have the makings, the skeleton of a blue economy in those sectors. The opportunities lie in fusing the sectors, in looking for the synergies that lie across them. So for example, what is the opportunity to build on our global experience of oil and gas operations in difficult marine environments and putting those across into offshore wind and or perhaps aquaculture? How do we combine those sectors to create a really vibrant and coordinated blue economy? And what lies behind the social and economic benefit that can be derived from the blue economy is the chance to address the damage that we've done to our marine environment, the damage we've done to our ocean. How can we use a more coordinated and coherent approach to the blue economy to regenerate our marine environment? So everything we do out there in the seas and oceans is more efficient, more mindful of the marine environment, and ideally improving it and making it better than it already is. This approach also opens up a lot of opportunities for many companies that have services and technologies and capabilities that can be applied to the blue economy, and that's the purpose of this afternoon's discussion. So that's just some overarching remarks. I'm your chair for the next hour or so. Please do be ready to ask questions and so on as we go through. There are one or two housekeeping aspects. Could I go to the next slide, please? You'll see here that your microphone is muted. Please note that your camera will be disabled. Please do use the Q&A function for questions, and our commentators and our speakers will answer online as well as audibly. And we will, of course, if you by mistake put a question in the chat, we'll answer that as well. We are recording it, and we will share all the information at the end of the event. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce now Julia Fonseca. She is a key player in Aquaterra, a company, a blue economy consultancy company based in the Orkneys, right up in the north of Scotland. And she's going to talk to us about the Blue Economy Cluster Builder project. Julia, the floor is yours. Thank you very much indeed for, first of all, organizing this event, and secondly, making the opening presentation.
Thank you very much, Nick, for the introduction, and welcome everyone to the Blue Economy Cluster Builder event. We will discuss today about opportunities and challenges of doing business in the blue economy in Brazil, and discuss a little bit about opportunities for collaboration at the end between Brazil and Scotland, as both countries have some things that are in common in terms of the economy of the sea. And our objective today is to enhance business opportunities, particularly for SMEs that is operating the blue economy. So my name is Julia. I am graduated in mechanical engineering. I've been working for Aquaterra since 2018 as an environmental consultant. And I now work for this Blue Economy Cluster Builder project, enhancing collaboration between SMEs and other players in the blue economy to support innovation and the growth of low carbon markets. So next slide, please. So just a short introduction about the project. So the aim of this event today is to discuss a little bit about those opportunities for collaboration. And we want to introduce a little bit about the work that Aquaterra has been doing in Brazil, and discuss a little bit about the challenges that UK business face when they do business in Brazil, and we will see from Mauricio some initiatives that he's leading in Santa Catarina in the economy of the sea, particularly focused on cleaning the ocean. And at the end, Laura will, from the Department of International Trade, will wrap up the presentation with some market opportunities for UK businesses that want to do business in Brazil. Next slide, please. So as I said, I will start with the presentation about the project and about Aquaterra. Mauricio will follow me introducing about the Navy Association in the Association of Business that operate in the sea. He's based in Santa Catarina. Kevin from NLA International will share a little bit about his experience as a UK company doing business in Brazil, and Laura from the Department of International Trade will wrap up the event. And Nick, as he already introduced himself, is our moderator and chair of this session. After that, we will open a session for questions and for any insights or anything that you want to share with us. Next. After the event, if you want to drop us an email, we are happy to share the contacts of the panelists today with anyone that is interested. So what is the Blue Economy Cluster Builder project? As we already said, the objective of this project is to communicate and raise awareness of the benefits of the blue economy in Scotland and for Scottish SMEs, enable them to take advantage of new opportunities as we are now facing a massive climate change problem in the world. There are lots of opportunities to develop innovation in low carbon technologies to reduce emissions that come from operation in the sea. And we also want to increase the number of Scottish companies that is operating the blue economy and support them to grow market opportunities in Scotland and abroad. Next. So we want to also leverage innovation in the blue economy and create new markets for innovative products, particularly when those innovative products or services are aimed to reduce carbon emissions. So, and how we do that, we engage with Scottish SMEs to understand their challenges in developing innovation and market opportunities. We also produce market reports and bulletins and other communication material that we share with our community. And we organize networking events or this kind of webinars where we can share insights from our community members. We are also happy to connect our members with innovators, investors, and project developers, as we understand that this is a very important process to leverage business opportunities and market for new products and services for SMEs. Next. So Nikki has already said some words about the blue economy, and I really liked his introduction about the difference between this project and other projects that are, or other clusters that focus on specific markets. The objective of the Blue Economy Cluster Builder is exactly what you said, Nick, is look at cross-cutting issues that are present in different sectors of that operate in the sea. So basically, we want to connect businesses that operate in oil and gas, with offshore wind and aquaculture. And we want to see how those different sectors can be connected and leverage innovation and business opportunities together. And we also want to engage them with the net zero agenda, as we know that the climate change agenda is very important for the blue economy. So, and basically, when we started the project, we led a review about different definitions for blue economy. And some key definitions that we brought for this project, that we adopted in our project, is that the blue economy is all the economic activities that are related to the oceans, seas, and coasts. So it covers a wide range of interlinked areas that are established in emerging sectors. As we said, offshore wind is a very important sector, and also other marine renewables. And we see that the operation of this sector is quite well connected to other sectors that also operate in the sea, such as shipbuilding and aquaculture. So the blue economy is also is the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth. So this is why the net zero agenda is super important for our project. We want to improve livelihoods and jobs in the sector, in our ocean ecosystem, and we want to improve the health of ocean ecosystems. So this is why we focus a lot on low carbon technologies and renewable energy sources, and we bring this issue of waste management that Mauricio will share with us, and also other agendas that are engaged in the climate change. Next. So these are the key sectors in the blue economy in Scotland, particularly. So it's coastal tourism, oil and gas, fish processing, shipbuilding, marine fisheries, ports, aquaculture, transport, marine renewables, desalination, coastal protection, and marine biotechnology. And as we are implementing this project, we can see how interlinked all the sectors are in different activities. So it's really interesting to explore more those interlinkages and those connections. Next. So, and how we are working in this project. So basically, we build a sustainable Scottish blue economy cluster, raising awareness of the opportunities for Scottish SMEs and blue economy capabilities. We work close to universities and research institutes, as this is also part of Aquaterra's portfolio of projects, and we want to create an environment, a good environment for collaboration across sectors. We deliver blue economy developments and events for SMEs, as this one, and we provide market intelligence with reports and data analysis that are also, it's everything available on our website. Next. So you can join our community. You can sign up to receive our bulletins, our reports. It's just like you can just sign up, join our community, and we'll receive our emails. Next. So I'll just introduce a little bit about Aquaterra. Aquaterra is a company, is a Scottish SME based in Orkney. It's an island at the north of Scotland. And we have more than 20 years of experience working in the development of marine renewables. We started with environmental impacts assessment, but now we see that there is a broad context of opportunities to work with stakeholder engagement, with the technology development, and connecting also with energy transition policies. We work with governments, universities, businesses, and we work in Scotland, in the UK, and we are also expanding our business abroad. So particularly in Brazil, we have started to explore more closely opportunities in Brazil in 2018. We are connected to local NGOs, businesses, research centers, and the public sector to explore how our experience of more than 20 years can support Brazil with its strategies in the blue economy, or as Mauricio would say, in Brazil we call it the economy of the sea. So we really want to join forces with Brazil. We want to use this opportunity to build together the low carbon economy of the sea, to decarbonize the economy of the sea in Brazil. Aquaterra wants to support the building of a global network of organizations, including businesses, research institutes, and government bodies, to enhance international and multi-sectoral global collaboration, the blue economy, and low carbon technology. So this project is quite well connected to other projects that we have in Aquaterra, such as the OAS environmental project, that is, as we are building a database of organizations that lead studies on environmental impacts assessment for marine renewables. So we are very well connected to organizations that operate in the sector worldwide. Next. So particularly in Brazil, when we started to explore opportunities, we developed some partnerships with local organizations, and we designed some projects to apply for grants and funds offered by the UK government. And with that experience, we managed to connect with some very interesting projects and ideas from innovators that are trying to find innovative solutions to provide energy access in remote regions or for the poor. We know that Brazil has a huge problem with providing clean and reliable energy access in remote areas. And we identified this as an opportunity for Aquaterra to bring bring energy for low-income communities through decentralized and low-carbon systems. And so then we built some networks of organizations, and we connected with local organizations, and we structured projects with those local organizations to apply for grants and funds in Brazil. Next one. And one very interesting proposal that we designed was a proposal that connected low carbon agriculture with low carbon energy systems to provide a community in the countryside of the São Paulo state with a self-sustained agriculture system that is sustained with low carbon energy system. It was a very interesting experience to liaise with these people that know what is the need of what are the needs of the ground, and we supported them to shape these needs in a language that is accessible for international grants that want to invest more on local projects. It was a super rich experience that we had with those organizations in the countryside of Brazil. Next one. And the other thing is Aquaterra is expanding our participation in the offshore wind with the offshore wind network in Brazil. Back in 2019, our managing director, Gareth Davis, he was invited as a speaker for the offshore technology conference in Rio de Janeiro. He spoke at the offshore wind panel in a conference that is addressed to oil and gas, which is quite interesting. It was the first time that an oil and gas conference in Brazil had a dedicated panel for offshore wind. So he shared the table with Mariana Espécime from EPE, which is the energy agency, the government energy agency in Brazil. And we discussed about how environmental policies can be shaped to receive offshore wind projects in Brazil. And we also hosted a delegation for Brazil in Edinburgh, also in 2019, and we presented some technologies for project planning, environmental impacts assessment, and site selection for the delegation that came to visit some offshore wind facilities in Scotland. We are now expanding connections with key stakeholders in order to get some project done in Brazil, and we are very happy to exchange knowledge and ideas and anything with anyone that is interested in connecting with us. Next slide. Nice. Yeah, thank you very much. This was the introduction for the Blue Economy Cluster Builder project for Apatera. We now invite next speaker, and the word is with you, Nick. Thank you very much.
Just before you do that, Julie, because that was a really interesting presentation, and thank you very much indeed for your remarks. One of the issues that we've discovered with the blue economy is getting sectors that traditionally think about their own methodologies and activities. So let's say oil and gas, or let's say renewable energy or aquaculture, is getting them to think across those sectors. Because if I go to a wind farm developer and say, please would you include aquaculture in your wind farm development, they may very well say, well, I'm a wind farm developer, I'm not an aquaculture expert, I don't want that risk. I don't want to take on that risk in what is already a risky project. So what is your experience of that in Scotland, and the sequel status, and what's your experience of bringing investment into that combined approach?
Yeah, thank you very much for your question, Nick. Yeah, I think that's a challenge that we are now trying to address, basically. So we see that this idea of connecting sectors across blue economy is an idea in construction. So when we engage with our members, we see that there is still like a mentality of working in sectors, not across sectors. And I think this is exactly the idea of the blue economy cluster builder, because if you see that we have other clusters, for example, we have the offshore wind cluster, we have the aquaculture cluster, we have like isolated clusters that are dedicated for specific sectors. But the objective of this project is exactly to raise the awareness of opportunities for collaboration across sectors, and how we can bridge them, and how we can actually make them connected and use expertise from one sector into another sector. And that's an idea that is still under construction, Nick. And I think in terms of getting investment for that, this is something that we discussed in our latest event. So basically, when we were discussing about investment, what we realized is that the investment comes for good ideas, and those good ideas come when we have good connections and good understanding about the needs of the sectors. So, and we are now in this process of understanding those needs and getting those needs into like a shaped ideas that make sense for the blue economy. Because the other thing that is that we bring in the blue economy cluster builder project that is different from isolated clusters that are dedicated to sectors is that the net zero and the carbon and the climate change agenda is the spine of our project. So innovations here must address climate change issues. So it is a baseline for our cluster. Yeah, so this is what I have, because actually climate change is a cross-cutting agenda for all the sectors, or it should be. If it's not, then it is wrong. So we need to decarbonize the operation in the ocean.
Yeah, thank you, Julia. That's a very comprehensive answer. And this is the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges that faces the economy. And I'm sure that Aquadera and other companies like ours have found, as they go internationally, approach countries internationally, those same cultural barriers exist, and the challenges there of looking for the opportunity and seeing the opportunity as making it worthwhile in terms of an investment, but also in terms of risk management. So thanks very much indeed. Just to remind our attendees, thank you for joining us. Please do ask questions in the Q&A. There's already a question from Rodrigo, which Rodrigo I'll hold until we get to the Q&A session. But thank you very much indeed. Please do ask questions in the Q&A and there will be a chance for you to quiz our experts. So with no further ado, I'm going to move on now to Mauricio Ventura. Mauricio, thank you very much indeed for joining us from Brazil. We're looking forward to hearing the case study from Acatemar. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. The floor is yours. And Julia and I will turn off our cameras.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Good morning here in Brazil. And so let me introduce you something about Acatemar, Brazilian Navy Association. First of all, I would like to say thank you for understand my simple English, my Brazilian English, and my simple vocabulary. But I am here to try to show and to share something about the Acatemar. Acatemar was born in 2008, yeah, just to support the marinas, the small marinas and nautical garage and similar, something like that. And we are naturally growing up in crossing the time. And when in 2012, the Acatemar become a nautical association from our state to support the people in our state. In 2013, 1 year later, we become a Brazilian nautical association because our job was growing up like when you are running up in the mountain. Everyone in Brazil was needing something like a Acatemar do, and we are growing up together. In 2015, we become our international relationships in 2015 by Italian government using the UTINA, and Asonautica is something similar from Acatemar here in Brazil, there in Italy. In 2019, Acatemar become a new partner in Confraria Náutica Europeia. Is a place where they put together the people who work with nautical methodologists and blue economy. In 2014, we was born the Limpeza dos Mares, is an environment project by Acatemar. 2014, yeah, and since there until now, we took off the nature more than 100 tons of garbage liters and into the deep of the ocean and the beaches and the nature. Our job just to support and teach to the kids at the schools, at the companies. And why Limpeza dos Mares, the ocean clean project? Why this project was born? Because the Acatemar Association help, like I said, help and support the people who works in the ocean, and we believe we need to help the ocean and environment to keep the clean, because if you like to live or work in the ocean, this place where you work have to be clean, right? And because of this, the Limpeza dos Mares was born. And like I said, since there 2014 until now, we have 32 steps until now. Normally six times in the year, we go to the beaches, go to the deep of the ocean with our divers to take the garbage and the litters from the nature and to put in the right place. We collect, we call many 100, sometimes many volunteers, even kids, to help us, and we believe, and because of this we can make our part in this big challenge. These challenges is to save the nature. I repeat, I'm sorry about my poor English, but I think we have a big content to share with you, and for us is a big honor to stay here, to introduce to the world, for you, our project. And I have one video, perfect video to explain everything what we did, what we do in this way. Can we play this video?
Produzido até hoje, nem 10% foi reciclado.
Yes, thank you.
Pelo menos 51 trilhões de partículas de microplástico já estão em nossos oceanos. 500 vezes mais que o número de estrelas em nossa galáxia. Se continuarmos nesse ritmo, em 30 anos teremos mais plástico do que peixe em nossos mares e oceanos. Isso é o que apontam as mais recentes pesquisas. Porém, é importante salientar que o plástico em si não é o maior vilão dessa história. Nós, seres humanos, é que não estamos fazendo um uso sensato e um descarte correto do plástico. E não é somente o plástico que polui. Garrafas de vidro, caixas de isopor, latas metálicas em geral e bitucas de cigarro são encontrados tão facilmente na natureza quanto o plástico. Diante dessa crescente problemática, a ACATMAR, Associação Náutica Brasileira, tomou uma posição e resolveu fazer sua parte para amenizar essa tragédia que estamos criando para nós mesmos e para as futuras gerações. Mesmo com todas as dificuldades que os trabalhos voluntários enfrentam, em 2014 foi criado o Limpeza dos Mares ACATMAR. E desde então o projeto só vem crescendo. Sabemos que isso é apenas a ponta do iceberg, mas sabemos também que o Limpeza dos Mares ACATMAR vem cumprindo sua missão não somente na ação direta, quando vamos a campo limpar nossos mares, mas também quando sentimos que o nosso trabalho vem sensibilizando cada vez mais as pessoas e a sociedade como um todo. Afinal, isso é uma missão de todos nós, afirma Leandro Mané Ferrari, presidente da ACATMAR e idealizador do Limpeza dos Mares. Desde a sua criação, o projeto já retirou do fundo dos nossos mares, das praias e dos costões, mais de 100 toneladas de lixo. Ao material recolhido é dado o destino correto. O trabalho do Limpeza dos Mares vai além disso. A indústria de embalagens vem demonstrando cada vez mais interesse nos dados levantados após cada etapa para desenvolver materiais menos agressivos ao meio ambiente. Palestras em escolas para conscientizar as futuras gerações também são feitas pelos voluntários da ACATMAR, pois acreditamos que essa mudança de comportamento, de educação, só vai funcionar plenamente se o indivíduo já tiver essa consciência desde criança. A participação em feiras e congressos, onde é possível divulgar o projeto e convocar mais voluntários, também traz resultados práticos, pois cada vez mais as pessoas procuram estar juntas nas ações. Nessas ocasiões, parte do lixo retirado da natureza é demonstrada em exposições que a ACATMAR promove. O engajamento de órgãos ligados à preservação da natureza e à segurança dos nossos mares é mais uma prova de que estamos no caminho certo e mostra a seriedade do projeto. São centenas de voluntários de todas as idades que deixam seus afazeres para dedicar seu tempo para fazer o bem. O Limpeza dos Mares mergulha fundo, literalmente, para tirar de dentro da água o lixo que muita gente não vê. Aliás, esse é um grande diferencial do Limpeza dos Mares e que faz a diferença. Impressiona os mais variados tipos de lixo que já foram retirados. Sofás, fogões, geladeiras, TVs, cordas de pneus, entre muitos outros, São alguns dos exemplos que podemos citar. Restos de redes, conhecidas como redes fantasma, também são encontradas ainda matando a vida marinha. Para muitos, isso seria motivo de desânimo. Mas para nós da Acatimar, isso tudo serve como mola propulsora, pois sentimos que estamos no caminho certo, no caminho do bem. Vem você também fazer parte disso? Visite nosso site, nossas redes sociais e entre para esse time de voluntários ajudando nessa luta que é longa e de todos nós. Limpeza dos mares Acatimar, o respeito pela natureza. Patrocínio Forte Atacadista. Bom negócio é fazer o bem. Mais informações no site limpesadosmares.com.
Mauricio, you're muted. There you go.
So that's it.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Mauricio, because that was a really fascinating aspect of looking after the blue economy, looking after the marine environment, and there's a blue economy approach that we talked about earlier. It's a massive project you've undertaken at Acatimar, and congratulations to you on what you're achieving. Brazil is an enormous country, as you know better than I. It takes you a long time to sail down the side of Brazil at 12 knots. I can tell you I've done it. And you have a very large coastline. But how well understood is, in your experience, the importance of that coastline and sea space that you own in your exclusive economic zone? And how much do you think that the general population and perhaps your academic institutions understand the importance of your ocean space?
So we believe our job is like a small seed or a small drop in the ocean. But without this seed or this drop, the ocean was smaller. And we are here just to support, to help, to do the best we can do to teach to the next generation how important is to preserve the nature and the environment, because they are the future. And this is our job, this is our mission, and I hope they understand us.
Yeah, I agree with you. The one of the key roles that we all have at our stage of life is the transference of skills and training and education. And that's an absolutely key part of the blue economy. And very impressed by the approach that you're taking in Brazil. You shouldn't apologize for your English, by the way, because it is considerably better than my Portuguese, as I've demonstrated on many visits to Brazil over the years. Mauricio, we'll come back in Q&A to ask you further questions, but now's my chance to introduce Kevin Fleming, a close friend and colleague of mine, who spent 4 years in Brasilia as a UK diplomat. And you'll be pleased to hear, Mauricio, his Portuguese is far, far better than mine. Kevin, thanks for joining us this afternoon. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. You can probably stop sharing the slides, and I'll just speak because I don't have any slides, if that's okay. So from my perspective, I would just say that none of my observations about doing business in Brazil are meant to provide any criticism or to compare Brazil with the UK in an unfavourable light, even if I could do so. What I merely aim to do is highlight some of the differences between Brazil and the UK. This is from a UK perspective, obviously, for those who are unfamiliar. And I do note that there are a fair number of Brazilian colleagues on this call, so I do apologise in advance if any of my observations or generalisations that you don't agree with. But the point is that they're mine as a Brit, who has some experience of Brazil. So please bear with me with that. I always think it's interesting to know what other people think of your country from their perspective, because it does highlight some quite different cultural challenges. So how do I know much about Brazil? Well, I first started studying Brazil in earnest in about mid-2014, so some 8 years ago. I began learning Brazilian Portuguese full-time a year later. And then I moved to Brazil in mid-2016, and I lived and worked for the UK. I lived in Brasilia and worked for the UK government at the British Embassy for 4 years as a UK diplomat and a military diplomat. At that, I was serving in the Royal Navy at the time as a defence attaché. I travelled around extensively around this enormous, incredibly beautiful country. And I returned to the UK in late 2020, but remain very well connected to Brazil, and indeed wider South America, which I managed to travel around to. This has helped. I've got a position as a visiting senior research fellow at King's College at the Brazil Institute, and also I'm a senior fellow in the Corbett Centre for Maritime Policy Studies. So there's an overlap there with the oceans and with Brazil. And through my work with King's College and latterly with NLA International, more a bit later, I aim to remain engaged as possible in the future. In terms of blue economy specifically, I've extensive experience in maritime domain awareness, over 33 years in the Royal Navy, and I'm currently engaged with NLA International colleagues in a very interesting area of high seas governance, the role of big data and artificial intelligence. And this work is developing linkages with governance and maritime situational awareness in sea areas closer to land, not just to determine, for example, where best to position floating offshore wind in UK territorial waters and EEZs, but also how to ensure adequate control of what that goes on. And Nick alluded to some of the challenges with looking cross-sector within a blue economy. A caveat, I'm not suggesting I know all there is to know about Brazil. Clearly, I'm not that foolish. But I think, have a broad understanding of some of the most significant cultural differences between the British and Brazilian people. I hope to share some of them with you now, but 15 minutes is not really a long time. So if you want to engage me further following this, please do get in touch. I'm sure my email will be shared with you as a result of this webinar. I haven't really gone into detail about the blue economy, Brazil and the opportunities. That's not really my aim at the moment, but of course, should there be opportunities downstream and in the Q&A to analyse some of them, then I can certainly give my views on where the opportunities might lie. So in terms of my opening statement, I would just say two things. Brazil is not for beginners, and Brazil is not for those in a hurry. And I'll come back to those 2 points later. But first, some statistics. Nick has already alluded to the fact that Brazil is vast, and there are a lot of Brazilians, about 210 million people at last count. And it is a wealthy country, although that wealth is not necessarily evenly spread. Just to put the context for those who don't know Brazil and the size and shape and so on, continental Europe, and I mean from Portugal to Ukraine, from Norway to Italy, Greece, would fit comfortably into the Amazon basin, and that is less than half the landmass of Brazil. Brazil is larger than the continental USA landmass, minus Alaska. And just in terms of distances, if you imagine a map of the South Atlantic with Brazil on the left and Africa on the right, the northeast corner of Brazil, the lovely city of Natal, is just under 3,000 kilometers from West Africa, so Sierra Leone. But it's further than that south. It's 3,600 kilometers to the far south of Brazil's border with Uruguay, and even further, 4,250 kilometers from to the far west of Brazil on its border with Peru. So it is a large piece of territory. Brasilia is the capital, one of the biggest errors that many Europeans make. It's been the capital since 1960, not Rio de Janeiro, who it took over from, or Sao Paulo, which has never been the capital. Any dealings with the Brazilian government, business dealings and so on, will probably involve visiting Brasilia. It's a 2-hour flight from Rio de Janeiro or Sao Paulo. Rio is the tourism capital, but also the hub for oil and gas. And interestingly, and I'll come to why in a moment, 70% of the Brazilian Navy are based in Rio de Janeiro. And I'll come back to the role of the Navy and the armed forces a little bit later. Sao Paulo is the business capital. A bit of travel advice, and I don't mean to over-egg the role of the Foreign and Commonwealth FCDO travel advice. You should always read that before traveling there. But in addition to this, and thinking about the international flights, I would say make sure you factor in sufficient internal traveling time and cost, which invariably means domestic flights because the distances by road are considerable and the rail network is very limited. As an example, to fly from Rio de Janeiro or Sao Paulo to the far south of Brazil, Porto Alegre, for example, it's about a 2-hour flight. So think Edinburgh to Geneva. And whilst the other direction to Rio Grande do Norte to Natal, that's over 3 hours. So think Glasgow to the Algarve in Portugal. So quite a long way. And when you factor in the time difference, Brazil is 4 hours behind UK, and the very challenging climate. It's hot and humid on the coast and hot and dry inland in Brasilia, for example. Then traveling to and within Brazil is not something to be undertaken without plenty of planning. And make time you factor in enough time to build relationships with potential customers. I'll come back to that point at the end. That's enough on the landmass. So what about the blue bits, the things we're interested in? Well, Nick, the coastline is about 8,500 kilometers long. It's beautiful. The beaches are endless. And I can't wait to go back next year for a well-earned holiday. And that forms the border with the blue Amazon, or Amazonia Azul, which was a term first used by the Brazilian Navy in 2004. And currently the blue Amazon is the area of Brazilian jurisdiction encompassing territorial waters, EEZ, continental shelves, contiguous zones between the shore and offshore islands. That covers an area of 3.6 million square kilometers. Brazil is currently lobbying the UN to extend this to 4.5 million square kilometers. And I would say the main motivation, well, in fact, I don't say this, the Brazilian Navy has said this on their website. The main motivation really is to identify this area as Brazilian to protect it for Brazil. That's largely for economic reasons, but also environmental, scientific, and national sovereignty, which is very, very important to Brazil. So this audience will understand the importance of the sea. And of course, Brazil is no different. Brazilians, the vast majority of whom live within about 100 kilometers of the sea, are very protective of what they are beginning to see is an area of equal importance to the green Amazon. So now coming to the first of my earlier comments, that Brazil is not for beginners. Do your homework, learn some of the language, and it's Portuguese, not Spanish, as some people still make mistakes on. And if you do that, it does go a long way. Do read about the region you're visiting. Despite me describing Brazil as a vast country, which it is, a single country, where everyone speaks the same language, Portuguese, which they do, but with some very interesting regional accents, a bit like the UK, there are some distinct differences, largely influenced by history. For example, there's a great rivalry between Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo, laid-back beachgoers and successful business people, the money makers. And more recently, Minas Gerais, hugely proud of their mining traditions, but also future-thinking innovation, and that does extend to the northeast. Sao Paulo has large Japanese and Italian communities, whilst further south there are large German communities. And did you know that the world's second largest Oktoberfest, the beer festival, is held in Blumenau, Brazil? The northeast of Brazil feels a lot to me like sub-Saharan Africa due to the climate and the cultural roots as a result of the slave trade. And it is generally much poorer, generally. The northwest of Brazil, the Amazon jungle largely, is home to indigenous Brazilians who might not recognize the national borders where they've always lived, but they are nonetheless Brazilians, and many protections exist for them to retain as much of their indigenous traditions and practices as they want to. On language, whilst more Brazilians are learning to speak English, still only about 5%, although those figures are probably slightly out of date, but I still would say it's single figures percentages, also are described as proficient. And many will be perhaps reticent to speak English. So Mauricio, parabéns, you speak very good English. But especially in business conversations and negotiations, there may be some nervousness. So expect to use interpreters, especially when you get to the detail. Business contracts are often prepared in both languages, but, and this is in my experience, and this may have been government to government, the contract or agreement that has primacy has been the English version. That may not be the case, it's worth clarifying. But also once away from tourism venues and business venues, do not really expect many people to speak functional English at all. Just a word on the environment, and Mauricio and the Limpeza do Mar is a really interesting thing, because my sense of Brazilians, the environment and the natural world is incredibly important to Brazilians, and especially so the younger generations. They're very proud to be guardians of the Amazon rainforest on behalf of humanity. And I expect, hopefully, this will extend to the Blue Amazon in the future if it becomes as well known. However, what Brazilians do not welcome, especially those in government or authority, is being lectured to by other nations about what they should be doing with their own natural resources. And without getting into politics, I won't do that here, and reiterating my earlier comment of do your homework. Before you engage, it is worth keeping on top of the latest debates. With the presidential election taking place in October, it is certainly going to be an interesting few months, especially if there is a transition of power from the current president to a previous one. I'm not expecting scenes like those of the 6th of January 2021 outside the US State Capitol building, but there will undoubtedly be demonstrations before, during, and after the elections, regardless of who wins. And on that, I think it's probably worth discussing the role of the Brazilian military. The things that the Brazilian military get involved in and are responsible for are very different to the British Armed Forces. So do not get concerned if you find someone from the Navy, Army, or Air Force involved in your business discussions. The vast majority of the Brazilian military are highly professional and very trustworthy, and are very trusted by most Brazilians when compared to their political masters. Although the military are very bureaucratic and hierarchical, so any engagement with the Brazilian military involved will take time and will need to follow certain protocols. Now, with respect to the blue economy, your engagement is more likely to involve areas within the jurisdiction and responsibility of the Brazilian Navy. Put simply, anything that goes on, above, on, in, under, anywhere near the sea, including the seabed, will very likely involve the Brazilian Navy to some extent. For example, offshore wind or other offshore renewable energy sources, seabed exploration, including purely scientific, and any mining, port infrastructure, etc., the Brazilian Navy will be involved. They have responsibility for navigation at sea, safety of navigation. In the UK, for example, that's the Department for Transport. The Brazilian Navy are also heavily involved in the nuclear energy sector and are seeking to build an indigenous nuclear-powered submarine within the next decade. Onto the Brazilian Army, it's responsible for defense of critical national infrastructure. For example, the hydroelectric power generated at Itaipu Dam on the Brazil-Paraguay border, which is about 19% of Brazilian electricity. The Army is also responsible for Brazilian cyber defense. So depending on any data sharing requirements of your projects, you may find yourself talking to the Army in some way. And the Brazilian Air Force, they're responsible for all air traffic control. If you need to use Brazilian airspace, maybe you're using drones or something along those lines, then expect to be involved with the Brazilian Air Force. The Air Force are also responsible for the control of Brazilian satellites. They have one indigenous communication satellite in orbit so far, geostationary above Brazil, with more planned. And they also have a spaceport on the north coast of Brazil at a place called Alcântara. My second earlier comment, Brazil is not for those in a hurry. Brazilians are extremely welcoming to visitors, especially those who've taken the time to travel all the way to their country from Europe and North America. They're also very proud of their country and their history, in particular with their links to Europe, to Portugal, Italy, Germany. They do see themselves as the world's leading Portuguese-speaking nation, and whilst they're very close to Portugal, they see themselves as less old-fashioned, more future-focused, although, of course, the Portuguese don't necessarily agree with them on this point. And let's not start talking about football. Concerning how Brazilians view the UK and the British, well, Brazilians are very proud of their early links to the British. Many, some people I was very surprised to meet, knew that in 1807, 1808, the Royal Navy escorted the ships of the Portuguese royal family as they fled Napoleon at the gates of Lisbon to safety in Brazil. And an infamous, you could say, Royal Navy Admiral, a Scotsman himself, Lord Thomas Cochrane, was appointed the first Admiral of the Brazilian Navy in 1823. Oh, and for those Scottish on the call, get used to being called English. Brazilians mean no insult by this. It's just the way that we are described by most of them. And I'm Irish and Scottish, and I got used to it. But whilst Brazilians are very friendly, do not expect to become firm friends after your first meeting. It does take time. During business meetings, especially if it is your first one, do not rush to talk business. Wait until small talk, weather, family, football, etc., have been thoroughly exhausted before beginning to talk business. I've been in meetings with very senior people where the business was discussed and concluded only in the final 5 minutes of an hour-long meeting. And be alert to the fact that when the meeting appears to have finished, business topics may continue to be discussed, and any undertakings agreed to then may be expected to be delivered upon. Finally, to wrap up, Brazilians do love a bargain, don't we all? As an example, when I was involved in negotiating the sale of an ex-Royal Navy warship to the Brazilian Navy, we were reaching the final figure and agreeing a delivery schedule when suddenly we were asked if the Brazilian Navy could spread the payments over several years, parcelar, as they say. This was not expected as the vessel was being sold for immediate use, and in the UK, we do not generally give interest-free loans to countries as wealthy as Brazil for this sort of equipment. However, much discussion went on in the UK and eventually it was agreed. The explanation I shared with the UK Navy was, and I actually had a discussion with a very good close Brazilian Navy friend of mine, was that a Brazilian would try to split the cost of a Big Mac if they could. So splitting the cost of something as expensive as a warship was entirely to be expected. I'm not saying that this will always happen, but it is something to be aware of when you're preparing for and undertaking contract negotiating and discussing payment profiles. Finally, in my experience, Brazilian people are, in general, very helpful people. As a result, they do not like saying no. During my 4 years living there, I learned this, sometimes to great personal inconvenience. But it is not from any malice. If Brazilians can help you, they will. But if they can't, there is a degree of awkwardness in not being able to do so. And as a result, rather than admitting defeat, they may choose to retreat from it, which might mean them saying yes when they actually mean no. Be aware. So I'll stop now. I hope these comments on my understanding of and experiences in the wonderful country that is Brazil were of some interest and will be of use to you, even for the Brazilians on this call. If you'd like me to go into any more detail with respect to advising you on future engagement in Brazil and developing blue economy opportunities, then please do get in touch, and I'll stop there.
Brilliant, Kevin. Thank you very much indeed. What an interesting perspective on Brazil and working in Brazil. Very, very helpful. We are a little bit short of time, so any questions for Kevin, please do put them into the Q&A or the chat, and I know he'll respond to them immediately. And as he said, we will be sharing emails and contact details on completion. But that was a fascinating perspective, and it just goes to show pretty much the same with the blue economy anywhere in the world. It's a long, slow, patient game as you build those relationships that Kevin so ably described and create the opportunity to work together. It's very, very rare that you get a very, very quick opportunity, an open and shut case, if you like. So to build on what Kevin has just talked about, we're now joined by Laura Matucci, who is part of the UK's DIT team. I don't know whether you're in Brasilia or Rio, Laura. Perhaps you might explain as you make your remarks about doing business in Brazil, please. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Nick. So I'll be sharing my screen. So just bear with me a second. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, it's clear. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. So I would like to thank the invitation for DIT to join this incredible session with incredible considerations from my colleagues. So as Nick mentioned, my name is Laura. I am the business development analyst at DIT in Brazil. Our team is based in Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil, and my presentation will be around explaining the focus on DIT. You guys might know exactly, but what are the portfolios that we cover? How can we assist companies and how we can build relationship and commercial outcomes between both countries? So this is the agenda. I'll basically cover who we are, what we do, the portfolios, the opportunities, how we operate, and the main upcoming events in Brazil for a reference of all of you. So just here is a slide just to start explaining exactly what DIT does. DIT is an UK department responsible for promoting commercial relations between countries overseas. Our team based in Brazil, we look for Brazil and we explore synergies between UK and Brazil. So DIT provides support for UK companies in succeeding in the global market. We have around 1,200 specialists spread around the world, and they are responsible for connecting opportunities in a lot of sectors. But our team, I'll explain on these slides later on, our team is basically focused on maritime, offshore wind, and oil and gas transition portfolios. We basically establish partnerships with associations, organizations, government, and companies. So the idea here is just to provide you an overview and distinguish our support regarding UK companies and regarding Brazilian companies. So in regarding the UK companies, we basically help those UK companies in overcome barriers to access the market and expand its operations in a certain and specific country. We help UK companies to identify opportunities and open doors, and we also help those companies in finding potential distributors and partners around the world. And the assistance that we provide for Brazilian companies is mainly to identify the main UK suppliers with innovative equipment, technologies, products, and services. And we basically build a bridge between the two. We are here to facilitate the business, and we help the Brazilian companies in identifying those suppliers. We are responsible for filling out the lack of supplement that the Brazilian industry might have. We want to increase strategic partnerships and support investment in the UK. And basically, how we operate. As I said in my slide before, we are here to assist those UK companies, those Brazilian companies, and we have a way of doing so, a way to operate. As you guys can see in this slide, this is the map of the UK region. We have a huge connection with main universities, main trade associations, but in Brazil. We have a huge connection with the main trade associations, the main universities, the main companies, and we can provide assistance in connecting you with those stakeholders. So we basically, when there is a demand, we identify the demand, we engage with this specific stakeholder to understand their needs. We understand what are the criteria and the priorities that this specific company or trade association has. We build a methodology and we build a process of account management and project management to assist this stakeholder. We build a mapping, so we basically select the main UK suppliers that can provide the technology and fill out the demand in the Brazilian market. We present this result and this analysis that we made to the Brazilian company, and we basically build that support with potential and UK suppliers that can help the Brazilian company to develop the technology or the partnerships that they are looking for. So we have a methodology and we plan ourselves to present that result to the Brazilian stakeholder. And as I said, I am representing the team, and our team, we basically cover these main areas in the Brazilian sector. On the maritime side, we cover long haul, cabotage, which is the navigation across the coast in Brazil, the inland waterway subsector, the port support, the offshore industry, and the leisure. The offshore wind industry, just an observation on this one. Specifically, we are, due to the new UK policy to not support anymore oil and gas activities overseas, we are restricted in this sector, only supporting activities that are related to the clean growth and green maritime technology or projects that this company has. We also have offshore wind, which is booming in Brazil, and decommissioning oil and gas. Related to the offshore support, we are not allowed anymore to work in the oil and gas sector, but we are focused on the decommissioning in the last stage of the industry, which is the removal of the platforms, and we can provide assistance in building relationship with the UK company and the Brazilian industry. So in this slide, I selected just a few examples of opportunities that our team has identified in Brazil, and this can be an opportunity for UK companies to look for this, and we are here to assist. We are here to build the bridge. So feel free to contact us. I'll share our contacts in the last slide. So in the maritime, we see that technology, systems, and services are a huge need for the Brazilian industry, mainly focused on the automation of systems, electrification, batteries of vessels. We see a lot of opportunities in software, devices, and digitalization of the industry as well, clean technologies as a whole. The maritime industry is looking for opportunities to develop itself and integrate the ports, the vessels, and the whole chain of the maritime industry. So the Brazilian government is looking for companies and projects in that sector. So this is an opportunity that we have identified. There is also the Marine Immersion Fund projects, which is a fund by the Brazilian government that every year releases and select a few Brazilian companies to receive the money from the government to new construction, to repair, to maintenance of the fleet and modernization of those vessels. So those projects, we believe, our team, we believe that has a huge opportunity for UK companies to get in. We know that the maritime industry, we don't have new builds, but we have opportunities for repair, maintenance of those ships, and here we see as an opportunity for UK companies to get in. On the offshore wind, there is a huge appetite from investors in this sector in Brazil. It's an early stage sector. Brazil already has 55 offshore projects seeking environmental licensing with IBAMA. IBAMA is the environmental agency in Brazil. And those opportunities are early stage, as I said, mainly focused on services and consultancy, such as environmental survey, marine vessel, engineer design, and etc. So the projects will take around 5 or 6 years to get the operational stage. But our team, we are basically doing an early engagement with the Brazilian companies that already has projects in offshore wind in Brazil. So we are doing an early stage engagement with those companies. And for decommissioning, it's a subject in Brazil that is still being developed. And Petrobras is the main owner of those projects. And they have an upcoming tender for engineering preparations, removal, and disposal. This tender will be in place, it's expected to be in place in October 2022. So those are the main scope of needs that we identify as an opportunities for UK companies to get into this tender. And we can provide more information, if you like, how to get in this tender and how UK companies can be prepared for it. So just to wrap up here, this slide is the main upcoming events in Brazil. If you're interested, some of them are hybrid, but some of them are already happening in person. Naval Shore happening in August is event in Brazil, mainly focused on the maritime industry. There is the São Paulo Boat Show focused for the leisure sector. There is the second one, the third one and the fourth one are from Sobina. Sobina is the main association of engineering society in Brazil. So those are huge seminars and huge workshops that they debate with the industry. So it's a great place for you to guys understand more about the market. There's the Brazil Wind Power happening in October in São Paulo. Another one from, and the last two are from Sobina as well. There is the link for those events. If you like, feel free to access later on. The slides will be shared. And please get in touch with our team. We are here to support UK companies in doing business in Brazil. My colleague Flavia and my colleague Dominic, they're on the line, they're on the event. So thank you so much, girls, for being online. And feel free to contact us. This is the structure of our team. And I hope you can get in touch with us. And I hope the presentation was met the expectations that you guys wanted. Thank you so much for the attention.
Laura, thank you very much indeed. I'm a big fan of DIT and the work you do internationally. We've had many very beneficial exchanges with you. So thank you very much indeed. I'm going to keep you on the stage actually, because we're going to roll straight into Q&A. And Rodrigo Cano, who's been quite active this afternoon, has thanked you for your presentation and says, and he's really asking the question around, do you see opportunities to work across the many sectors that you described? So is there a growing interest in offshore fish farms, mariculture, and the integration of offshore wind and say aquaculture in Brazil? Are you seeing the blue economy becoming used relatively commonly as a concept, and that awareness of opportunities that happen across the sectors that you so ably described, please?
Thank you so much, Nick. Yeah, we do see, especially the Brazilian government, looking for new ways of having that integration, as I said, and offshore wind, it's a growing market, will be a growing market. This is still in early stage, but we see as a future opportunity and a future sector for companies to develop its technologies, and they will need the technology, they will need the know-how and experience from the UK that already has a huge integration already in the offshore industry, already has the expertise. And since the Brazilian government is still developing the regulation, the regulatory framework, Brazil will need assistance in knowing more about the projects that has been developed and etc. IBAMA, which is the environmental agency, is looking at how this offshore wind structure will be built, because we know that there is an impact in the sea, there is an impact in the fauna. So this is something that IBAMA is mapping, and we want to provide assistance in sharing experience and how the UK has developed that.
Brilliant, thank you, Laura. If our other speakers, Mauricio, Julia, and Kevin, could please bring up your cameras as we're going into the Q&A session. That would be very kind. Julia, from Rodrigo again, a great presentation, as indeed everybody has said. There's a challenge in governance when discussing or negotiating investments, and he's noticed that in work he's doing on seaweed. In your opinion, what are the main and best players for building up a cluster on blue economy in Brazil? Should they have a broad profile focus that goes across the whole of the blue economy, or should they be focusing on a specific area or issue or risk, do you think? What's been your experience from Scotland?
Yeah, I think the issue in Brazil, I had a chat with the Professor Tawan Santos before the session, and one thing that we discussed is that in Brazil, we don't have yet a very clear concept for blue economy. So the concept of blue economy in Brazil is still under construction. So this is why I see a big challenge in having a blue economy cluster builder type of project in Brazil. So I see that in Brazil, we still need to connect just still companies that are operating the same sector, but exploring cross-cutting opportunities for collaboration until we get like a clear understanding about the governance or how this blue economy would work in a country that has a huge diversity, as Kevin highlighted today. So I think that that's one of the big challenges that I see for Brazil at the moment. And I totally agree with you, Rodrigo, that this lack of clear concept or this lack of a clear understanding about the governance of the blue economy in Brazil it represents a challenge for attracting investments in this area. So I think I don't have any specific player to recommend to you now. So I think it's so I think we need to, as Kevin said, in Brazil, we need to be patient. We need to plant seeds and we need to water those seeds every time. We cannot give up. So we need to water like little by little every day. And then by watering those seeds, we can see like a whole plantation growing up. And I think that's the way to do things in Brazil, really. And it's like connecting people with building those relationships. Brazilians like building relationships, like they like being, well treated all the time. And I think that's the way of like building something like a blue economy cluster builder thing that would work in Brazil. It's like connecting, finding people, and then building something that would make it flourish. So I just want to make a question for Mauricio before I go. Mauricio, I really loved your video. It was fascinating, and I was just wondering how do you engage your project with businesses? Because we often have this idea that this type of work of cleaning the ocean or cleaning cities, or it's a matter that is just for civil society groups. Usually business, they say like, I'm here to do business, I'm here to do profits. So, and then they kind of like want to escape from the responsibility of doing their social responsibility thing, or they just leave it to their social responsibility area in their companies. So how is the challenge for you to connect this project of cleaning the ocean with businesses and make business understand that this is also their role?
The big challenge for us is change the culture. Here in the south of Brazil, we are in the south of Brazil. Our city is an island. Let me introduce something for my new friends from UK. Florianopolis is the capital of the Santa Catarina state, and we are in an island. You know Kevin, of course. Probably Nick don't know yet, but I believe Laura and Julia know, of course. Brasilia is a is a paradise in the earth. So we have 42 beach and more than 100 small beaches. And these people who live here, they don't see the ocean like a place where they have to care. The culture, since the old times, the people live like this, with the back to the ocean, just to put the garbage, the litters, and they believe they have been believing this in this culture. And now, since 2008, when was born a Catimar, in 2014 when was born Limpeza dos Mares, we are changing the culture. This, I think, this is the big challenge. And after this change, we can make some business, of course. One example, here in Florianopolis, we are trying to build a big marina, not too big marina, like 600 places to put the boats in the downtown of our city. And we are trying, the government, they are trying to put this marina, this equipment, around 20 years. And why 20 years? Because the people don't care about the ocean. They don't care. They love, of course, the beaches, but the ocean, like we have two big harbors here in the downtown, North Harbor and South Harbor. If you can check by internet, and you are trying to put this big marina in the North Harbor. And I think when we put this marina in this place, of course, we will have two different cities before and after this marina, because the nautical culture will change. And of course, the environment culture will change as well, because no one who use the boats like we use the ocean dirty, right? And I think when the kids will grow up and become the leaders, they will have this mind. So basically, the answer is, our big challenge is to change the culture, to care the ocean like the future or the present, because you are living now. I think this is the answer for your question, Julia. And again, I'm sorry about my restricted English.
It's brilliant. We should have left the two of you talking Portuguese to each other. But Mauricio, thank you very much indeed for your remarks and for your passion and for what you've done. I think it's fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid we are now coming to the close. So this is my chance to ask Julia, who has been, along with the rest of the team, organizing this event, and to ask her just to make some closing remarks. Julia, the floor is yours. Your microphone is muted.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nick, and thank you very much for all the panelists. Laura, thank you for sharing all the opportunities and the work that DIT has been doing in Brazil. Kevin, thank you very much for your presentation. I really like the way that you framed our culture, the challenges of, getting involved with Brazil and stakeholders and everything. Mauricio, your presentation was amazing. It's congratulations for your initiative. And I think this is like really important. This is a really important message that you brought today, because I think we mostly take it from the ocean for granted. We just like say, okay, so the ocean is always there, but we cannot see what is beneath the surface. And bringing, this image of the deep waters and how our consumption consumerist culture is damaging the ocean. It's a really important message. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for those that is still with us now. And we will share the link of this webinar on our social media. So it was recorded. It will be released on YouTube, and we will share on our LinkedIn. So for those that didn't have the chance to be here today, we'll have the chance to watch the session on YouTube. So, and we will still have another events coming up in the next semester. We are planning to do an event dedicated to Spain and Portugal. We also want to do an event dedicated to Indonesia and to other countries where Aquaterra works and has relationships with local organization stakeholders. So feel free to drop us an email, to join our community, to ask any question about today. And we are very happy to follow up on this session and to connect anyone that is interested in connecting with us and with our network. We are just here to help. Thank you very much, everyone.